This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. It's been an interesting week of videos. It's going to be an interesting week of comments. Let's get into it, man. Let's not even waste no more time. Let's get into it. First video of the week that we're going to look at the comments from. Colin Cowherd said the Browns roster is worse than Pittsburgh's. And let's get back to, it was kind of fun. It was nostalgic. I don't get mad at Colin Cowherd no more. Sometimes I read the comments and it makes me wonder how people interact with things, because so many people were in the comments oh man, don't get mad about this Q, don't get angry about this Q. And it's I'm not mad at this. I just think it's funny. And also, I think it's fun to also point out how ridiculous some of these takes are, or even interesting to point out how the process of Colin Cowherd, how he got there with some of these takes. Because it's easy to look at somebody say something ridiculous and not understand how they got there and just make fun of how ridiculous they are. I think it's interesting to hear somebody say something ridiculous, try to understand what brought them to such a ridiculous opinion, and then break down why the foundation of what they built that opinion on is ridiculous. And that's what I did with this video, right? Because it was okay, he ranked the Browns here. And then we went through the rest of his list and we found out he's just ranking quarterbacks, right? That is the fundamental flaw with the list. It's not a hatred of the Cleveland Browns thing. It's just, he's ranking quarterbacks and he's confusing that with power rankings, and it's a bad process. I think that's more interesting. But I wasn't upset or mad, or it doesn't irk me. I kind of like talking about Colin Cowherd every once in a while. Not all the time, but every once in a while, because it's nostalgic. My channel started off a Colin Cowherd video. It ain't never actual beef. Kia Adams says, at this point, I don't think he believes a word he says. It's the offseason. Colin needs the views. He knows Browns fans will give him the reaction, the online, the buzz, the ratings he wants. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think this is the case with Colin Cowherd. As somebody who has kind of studied Colin Cowherd over the years, I don't think he does this for views. Because the truth is, Colin Cowherd does a fine job getting views himself. He's done a good job for years getting views. It's not something he needs to go out of his way to do. As crazy as this sounds, Colin Cowherd has a pretty dedicated audience of people who listen to him whenever he's on. So much so that his platform has been able to launch the careers of many other people. I don't think he does any of this just for views. He's Colin Cowherd. He's going to get the views regardless. So I don't think that's why. I don't think we can just reduce his opinions to that. Does he do it for reactions? Maybe. I don't know if the Browns fan base is big enough for him to go a reaction out of at this point, or at least motivated enough to go to reaction out of. I think that's what he's doing when he's ranking Dak below the Commanders or something like that. I think he's really trying to get a reaction out of Cowboys fans because they're really jacked up not jacked up, but juiced up right now. The Browns fan base is not in this hypercharged state that they were in when Baker Mayfield was the quarterback, where we were eager to argue about it. And honestly, if Colin Cowherd were trying to bring us out to get views and to get our reaction, he would have done more of a segment on the Cleveland Browns and pointed that ranking video more at the Cleveland Browns. But honestly, he was pointing that ranking video to get a reaction, not from Browns fans, but from Cowboys fans, Jets fans / Aaron Rodgers diehards. And really, that's it. I think that's who he's aiming at. But Ocean Y says, in the mid to late 2000s, Cowherd was pushing daily that Mark Sanchez was the Jets was a better QB than Aaron Rodgers of the Packers. You gotta remember, at this point, this had to have been before Aaron Rodgers won a Super Bowl. So what? I think Mark Sanchez, before Aaron Rodgers won a Super Bowl, had been to 2 AFC conference championship games, or at least one. So that bit of context is important. It's still a ridiculous take, but that bit of context is important there. Mark Sanchez of the Jets was a better quarterback than Aaron Rodgers of the Packers because at that time, Sanchez had been to the playoffs and Rodgers had not. The Jets had the best defense in the NFL, and at the time with Reeves Island, it was so ridiculous. I haven't listened to him since. Looks like things haven't changed. Lazy and disingenuous. Yeah, there's times where Colin can be lazy and kind of purposely obtuse, and that's when he's at his worst, right? I do think, and I will give him credit, because I do think sometimes he does say some good shit. And that's when he's just not super focused on getting a reaction and just kind of just being a person. But yeah, when he rolls into his troll instincts, it's the worst. And sometimes, look, he's Colin Cowherd. He's been in the business a while. But if it's not the Cowboys, if it's not one of the 5 teams that he's been talking about all summer, he's going to be bad at covering that team. Because he only pays attention to those teams, right? Cowboys, LeBron James, basically all the stuff that mainstream sportscasters pay the most attention to. So anything outside those topics, he's not really going to provide any insight that's interesting. And sometimes Colin really does overvalue his personal hunches. I think that's the number one flaw with Colin Cowherd. He don't really look at stuff objectively. He just goes off of his hunches. And while I think it's important to have an instinct and go with your instinct at times in this business, I do think over-reliance on it can lead you to saying a lot of dumb shit. And that was probably a bad instinct on him, because what does Colin Cowherd love? He loves them USC quarterbacks. He can't help himself when it comes to them USC. I bet he was all on Carson Palmer. We know how much he loves Sam Darnold, right? Sometimes you just got to take a step back and go, hey, man, maybe my instincts ain't pointing me in the right direction. I need to look at some info. And that's when Colin get in trouble. He don't be looking at no info sometimes. He just be going off straight vibes. And then he'll back up his vibes with 45 analogies. Get to Nard says, maybe I speak Colin, but what he's saying is the division is so close that special teams will be a factor and that the Ravens have the best special team. I don't think it was a flex. Whatever it was, if it was a flex, if it was a justification for putting the Ravens at 1, it was poorly worded. I think that whole segment, when he went through the AFC North, especially, was bad. It was just a bad segment. He didn't word or describe his explanations well. It clearly was something he was trying to get past to get to something else he really wanted to talk about. If I'm being honest with you in that segment, if I'm just using what I know from putting together segments and doing sports talk, it seemed like he was just trying to get through the AFC because he really wanted to talk about the NFC East or something like that. But he only had 15 minutes for that segment. So I don't think he was trying to say anything like that. I just think he was talking about the Ravens. He was talking about good things with the Ravens. And one of the things that popped into his head was, special teams. They're good at special teams. And like I said in the video, they're not that good at special teams anymore. They're not that much better than average. Justin Tucker really did not have a Justin Tucker level year last year. So I don't think he was thinking about it that much, man. Sometimes that's just the case. Browns rookies who could break out during camp. Crum says to this, I disagree. While he was a rookie, he's talking about DTR going from a backup, right? So I made the point in this video that DTR had gone from the backup and now he's competing for a third string job. He makes a point that while he was a rookie last year, his competition was with Josh Dobbs. While I personally like Josh Dobbs, the backup QB competition is more competitive this year. DTR is coming off an ACL tear and has been beat out and has to beat out Jameis Winston, former number 1 overall pick, through 500. Yeah, we know Jameis is better. Tyler Huntley, who had a similar breakout, is DTR, started in 1 game for Baltimore. So if DTR were able to fend off those two, I'd consider that a massive breakout. Yeah, if DTR becomes the backup over Jameis Winston and Tyler Huntley, sure, that would be a massive breakout for DTR. But Tyler Huntley and Jameis Winston are only here because the Browns don't have that much confidence in DTR. It's not like those two just kind of got assigned to Cleveland and DTR has to deal with it. Those two players were signed to Cleveland by Cleveland because they weren't satisfied with what DTR brought in. So yeah, if DTR can get back his backup job after the Browns determined he was not fit for the backup job anymore, then that would be good for DTR. But I don't even know if that would be a breakout. That would just have him back where the Browns expected him to be, which is a backup quarterback. So I don't think he can break out. You can argue that he beat out 2 more bigger names, but those names are only here because he did not make them confident enough in him to go into this season with him as the backup anymore. Something changed. Not just changed where they got Jameis, changed to where they got Tyler Huntley too. So I get your point. I get what you're saying, that the backup quarterback competition was not as intense as it was this year. So getting the backup job last year was easier than it would be this year. So if he does get the backup job, it would be more impressive than it was last year. But I think that ignores the entire reason those 2 quarterbacks are here. And those 2 quarterbacks are here because the team did not feel like DTR was good enough to beat a backup anymore. Like they felt like he was the backup to start the season. They felt good about that. So good that they traded Josh Dobbs. And then next offseason, they feel the need to spend money on Jameis Winston. They feel the need to go out and add Tyler Huntley. That's on DTR. You know, this isn't a real vote of confidence in him, which was my entire point. Amari Cooper, holdout is over. This was a fun video. Damian says, this is the difference between this Browns team and front office. The old Browns would have completely messed this up and done something to mess up the team. You are seeing the change and growth with this team as a whole. We finally have the right people in place in the front office. Browns for life. It wasn't that long ago that we had the whole Duke Johnson situation and Baker Mayfield talking about get on the train or get off. And that really really started the whole polarizing Baker Mayfield thing in the locker room, right? Where people just had these drastically differing opinions on him. And it all started with that, where he broke that kind of rule. Now, Deshaun's clearly not going to do that. Deshaun understands the importance of maintaining leverage in the contract negotiation. He did the opposite of that actually in this cycle, where he advocated for Amari Cooper, which is going to be good for that locker room. But yeah, I think the Browns are better at these things because they have the tools to be better at these things. I don't think it's like some magic dust that Andrew Berry sprinkles on these negotiations that makes them go well. It's the fact that the Browns can offer cash, right? The Browns were able to say to Amari Cooper, okay, we're not going to give you a long-term deal. That's just not going to happen before camp. What we can do is we can guarantee all the money that's left on your contract, get that to you right now in a signing bonus, and then add $5 million in incentives. So if you want to make $25 million this year, Amari, you can make $25 million this year if you meet these incentives. How about that? We can do that. We got the cash to do that. And Amari was like, all right, cool. That happened with David Njoku. That happened with Kareem Hunt. When you have that tool at your disposal, these things are a lot easier to handle because you can have a middle ground of sort. It's not just you're not getting a contract, you're getting nothing play. It's, okay, we're not going to do that, but how about this? And when you have a how about this in a negotiation, it makes your odds of being able to get what you want a lot better. Liberty says all in for Higgins or Ayuk next season, barring injury. I don't know about that. Do the Browns, would I be confident that the Browns scouting department finds T. Higgins and Brandon Ayuk is top tier receivers. Yes. Do I think the Browns as an organization feel like wide receivers or a wide receiver is worth more than $30 million? I'm not convinced. And if I'm got to keep it a buck with y'all, I'm not convinced just me personally that wide receivers are worth $30 million. I have not seen one $30 million wide receiver get signed somewhere and transform a team into a competitor. Honestly, well, outside of maybe Tyreek Hill, he's the only wide receiver I would say that he's more valuable to his team than Nick Chubb is. And Nick Chubb get paid $15 million. I just think we need to take a step and evaluate how much money we're spending on wide receivers and if it actually makes sense. I don't think it makes sense. Like maybe for one of these top tier guys, but even then, I don't know how much it makes sense. Like, I don't know if the wide receiver makes the quarterback as much as people make it out to be. I'm just want to go on record to say, I don't think spending $30 million for a wide receiver is a great idea. It's something that teams are going to do. Maybe it's not a hard, fast rule at $30 million. It's whatever percentage of the cap it is right now. But it's a lot of percentage of the cap for a player who you put four other guys out there sometimes that play the same position, and he's one of those options. It's a lot of money for that. It's a lot of money for that. I don't know if it makes a ton of sense. See, controversial card says, I have a strong feeling next year's wide receiver market is going to be one of the best free agent classes in history. Let Coop go after T or Brandon Ayuk. Heck, if DK Metcalf is available, let's get DK Metcalf. Hey, I think the Browns, if they let Amari Cooper go, they would definitely be looking in that second tier of wide receiver. I don't think they're trying to pay $30 million for a wide receiver. I think they're going to try to find a way to get under that. And if that means that they got to trade for somebody, if that means that they got to sign somebody who's seen as a lower tier, they'll do that. But 30 million, 35, some of these numbers, I don't think the Browns doing that. The Browns are back at camp. Max Out Dojo with a $100 super thanks. Super thank you to you. Appreciate you for that one. Thank you for all you've done to get us through the season. No real drama. Good additions to the roster and staff. Good news from recuperating players. It's been a fun offseason, Max Al, and that's been a joy to cover. It's not been the most newsworthy offseason of all time, but I think there's been a lot to talk about. And I think I like to pride myself on what I can do in the off season when there isn't news, because I think what separates me from a lot of other people who cover the Browns is that I don't need there to be news for there to be something to talk about with the Browns. I don't need to come on here and tell you about some BS rumor I heard on Twitter about a player who the Browns aren't going to sign to try to fool you into watching a video. We can do stuff like ranking the Browns 25 players and doing film breakdowns within that. We can do stuff like reevaluating the season by rewatching the year and coming up with new things that you see or new perspectives that you get from being removed from it. I get to be creative in the off season. During the regular season, you're doing a lot of reacting. During the off season, I can do a lot of thinking, a lot of creative thinking. I get to kind of challenge what I thought. Like, that's one of my favorite things to do, because during the season, you create these beliefs, you're arguing with people, you're reacting to things that you're seeing, and you really dig down a lot on a lot of different takes that you have during the regular season. It's just the nature of how we communicate and how that works. You're going to double down on some shit because you're constantly reacting to people, reacting differently to how you react. But once the season is over, I'm not constantly arguing with folks. I'm not constantly reacting to this happening and that happening, and this dude's on the practice roster and that guy's not on the injury report and this and that. I'm not reacting all the time. So I get to sit back and think and say, hey, I really thought this player was good. Maybe I want to go back and check that. Or, I'm not sure how I feel about how Deshaun Watson played when he was in for those, 4 games or 5 games that he played in 2020. Let me rewatch those. How did I really feel about Joe Flacco? Let me rewatch those. I was really in a defensive place when I was talking about DTR. So maybe I need to rewatch those games and reevaluate how I feel about that. I get to reevaluate. I get to see if maybe I was just in a place where I wasn't seeing things clearly. And maybe if I rewatch it, I get to see things more. I get to do so much more in the offseason when it comes to refining my feel on the team to get a more accurate picture on where this team is and where the team is going in the future. And I think that makes the coverage better, right? Not always having to react to news and being able to get, some perspective on the season or talk to other people about how they perceive the Browns that weren't necessarily connected to the Browns. And you just get more time. Right? You just get more time to do those things. And that's with the season coming up. I know I'm going to get less and less opportunity to do stuff like that, but I do enjoy that part. And I hope if you've stuck around the whole off season, that's something that you get to enjoy, that you enjoy as well, because, that's what I think makes me get better every year is the fact that I don't just sit back and wait for news to happen during the season, that I try to challenge some of the stuff that I thought throughout the year, right? There are takes that I thought were good in the fall, but I got to the summer, I reevaluated. I'm like, you know what? I don't think that anymore. I think that makes me better. Right. I think a lot of people go into this thing where they double down on a bad take and they refuse to admit they're wrong. So all their takes are backed up by this initial thesis that was just wrong. And it causes them to constantly be wrong when you could just say, hey, maybe I was wrong on that. Reevaluate how you feel, refine it, figure it out, and then get back on track and get a proper picture of where the team is going to be. That's what I like doing in the offseason. John says, I think Deshaun playing a bit in the preseason is important so we can see how he feels. Also, how often will we get until Chubb gets injured, weekly or longer intervals? Well, we just saw that Nick Chubb is sprinting again. Yes, he was sprinting at practice. Now, they could not record it, but the people who were there said he looked amazing, sprinting and cutting laterally. I don't have much to say other than this. When it comes to anything that has to do with Nick Chubb's body, we need to just accept that that man is not built like us. He is different. That man is a different beast of a thing entirely. Nick Chubb should not be and this was my whole issue with it all off season, right? Where people were super doom and gloom on Nick Chubb, telling me that we'd be lucky to get Nick Chubb by the last 4 weeks of the season and that he's not even going to be a factor this year. And I'm like, dog, there's no way Nick Chubb has earned, or not Nick Chubb has earned, but there's no way you're just going to count Nick Chubb out like that. If anybody has earned the right to not be counted out, it is Nick Chubb. He has a literal resume that says you should probably not count him out after a gruesome ACL injury. And he's Nick Chubb. He's demonstrated that he's an outlier literally his entire career. Literally his entire career. He was an outlier in high school. You've seen that picture where he's like jumping 10 feet in the air. He's in high school. He was an outlier at the University of Georgia. He was an outlier his first years in Cleveland. He's going to continue to be. That man is an outlier when it comes to anything related to football. He's an outlier. We cannot use averages to determine what this man going to do. He's not average. He's an outlier. That's the problem with averages. It tells you really good what the average people going to do, but you don't ever use those numbers to talk about average folk. You use those numbers to talk about the outliers. And Nick Chubb is a massive outlier if you look at his career. So I think that's the one thing people kind of lost perspective of, is how much of an outlier he is. But yeah, man, Nick Chubb is crazy. Now, as far as that Deshaun Watson bit, yeah, Deshaun needs to play in the preseason just because throwing in practice throwing in 11 on 11s, even if they're padded, throwing on 7 on 7s when it's non-contact is not the same thing as playing actual football. He needs to play where he has the adrenaline rush of knowing he can get hit and throwing the ball like he knows he's going to get hit. And also he needs to take a hit, see if that shit's going to hold up. So yeah, I think he needs to practice and play in the preseason. But that's going to be it for hot takes today. Appreciate you guys for dropping these comments. Y'all have a great day. Have a better night. Peace.